Housing Development Progress. Number one and the best. Housing Development Progress. Number one. Number one. Housing Development Progress. Number one and the best. Housing Development Progress. Number one. Housing Development Progress. In Nigeria. Housing Development Progress. In Africa. Housing Development Program and the globe. Number one, Housing Development Program.
A world in which only a few can afford housing is not sustainable. Everyone deserves a safe place to live. It can transform the quality of life of individuals and families. Today, however, most cities around the world are facing major challenges in providing safe and adequate housing for their people, especially cities that are growing rapidly and where the affordable housing options are limited. Even those who earn steady wages are unable to buy or rent affordable housing. Nigerians have had to live with promises of housing for all by the year 2000, 2010, 2015, and even 2020. And the dates will continue to change if an enabling environment for affordable housing is not developed, and if the right policies and political will are not in place to make it happen. Welcome to another informative episode of Housing Development, a program focused on the provision of adequate, accessible, and affordable housing for Nigerians. As always, I am Flora Oni, your housing diva. Let's see the news making rounds in the housing sector. I will be back shortly.
Home prices in major Nigerian cities is rising as much as 25%, significantly worsening affordability issues for buyers. Despite real estate agents report ongoing property transactions, though rising costs push many prospective homeowners to the outskirts where infrastructure like roads, drainage, and electricity is lacking. The Nigerian housing market is feeling the effects of rising interest rates and inflation, which are driving up home prices. Potential buyers are facing higher mortgage rates and property values, making purchasing a home considerably more expensive than it was a year ago. This trend is putting additional strain on the housing market, already sensitive 7 to 2024, with a peak of 24, has urged the federal government to declare a state of emergency in the real estate industry due to the looming housing crisis. This appeal comes after the Lagos state government discovered makeshift apartments under the Dolphin Estate Bridge in Ikoyi, Lagos, highlighting the severity of the housing deficit in the country. HDAN's statement restated the dire conditions of these underbridge apartments, which consist of 86 partitioned rooms, each measuring 10 by 10 or 12 by 10 feet, with tenants paying an average annual rent of 250,000 naira. The group called on President Tinubu's administration to adopt a more pragmatic approach to addressing the housing crisis, stressing that the situation in Lagos is a reflection of the nationwide housing shortage worsened by the economic downturn, which forces citizens into inhumane living conditions. Director of Green STEM Group and former president of the Mortgage Banking Association of Nigeria, Adeniyi Akinlusi, in an interview with Festus Adebayo, discussed the challenges in the housing sector and the areas where the new administration can implement reforms. He emphasized the fundamental components of a livable house: land, approved design, construction, and essential infrastructure like access roads, water, and power. Akinlusi pointed out that these are crucial areas in dire need of reform. Akinlusi highlighted the importance of domesticating policies such as the Housing Building Code to ensure quality. He stressed that the primary issue lies in implementation, Even achieving a 20% implementation rate of these policies could significantly improve the housing sector. Effective policy execution is essential for substantial progress in addressing
To read the full details of the news, do well to visit www.africanhousingnews.com. On an incremental basis, the cost of living crisis in Nigeria is escalating in more ways than one. It is impacting on the health, finances, and access to basic needs of individuals, organizations, and families. One major development that has come with this crisis is that everybody, especially families, is now prioritizing their needs, and this action favors feeding and getting well, which means that family budget now lean more towards food and health. How about housing, one may ask? Why do some landlords at this time increase their tenants' rent? Well, let's listen to Nigerians speak on Voices on the Streets.
In fact, things are very, very difficult, especially with regards to the rent you are asking of. The rate in which landlords are increasing, rent, is alarming. It's just alarming. Yes, that's just what I will tell you. It's just alarming. They increase it without any control. No government interference. Someone who built house, let's say 10, 20 years back, simply because of what is going on, he will just shoot up the price and nobody to checkmate.
To me, honestly, I will blame the government because cost of living are increasing day by day. They remove subsidy, and by virtue of that, you can see that things are going skyrocket. You see, today you buy fuel 700, tomorrow they tell you 950, next tomorrow above that. So the landlords, to me, they are right for increasing the rent, the house rent, because what is good for the gander is always good for the goose.
Man is basically greedy. Now they will tell you because of the dollar rate and the naira rate, the dollar has made naira to be so high, and because of that, every other thing has increased. Now you ask yourself a question. What is the connection between a foreign currency and the products that are produced locally? I mean, the last time I priced cement was 4,000. The day they told me it was 12,000, I was lost. Like, how?
It's not the cost of the landlord, rather being the cost of the house, or maybe people selling food in the markets. Is the cost of our government, in the sense that the money paid to civil servants is not up to what they will use to train their children in an institution. Talk more of feeding the family.
Let's go. Let's go. Let's go. Oh,
huh? What is it again?
Oga, I dey drive this car, my mind no dey. My landlord is on my neck.
Your landlord again? I thought I have told you this before. Get a mortgage, register with NHF scheme, and get a home up front. What is so difficult about this?
Oga, I will do just that. See, I will shame that my landlord. Mortgage.
At the Federal Mortgage Bank of Nigeria, everyone deserves a home.
Voices on the street there. The disclosure by the Lagos state government that 80% of buildings in Ibeju-Lekki had no approval raises concerns about the government's effective monitoring of various estate and constructions, despite the state's large number of ministries and agencies saddled with the responsibilities. It also raises concerns about government officials' negligence in monitoring and enforcing building regulations in the state. Well, as demolition continues in Lagos State over the Lagos-Calabar Coastal Highway, a former director of Performing Act at the National Council for Arts and Culture, Sam Agui, has this to say. Take a listen.
Having worked with government, government should learn to have an engagement. You know, what has been part of our issues here is that we do not embrace public relations strategy in dealing with a lot of issues. Communication is a very powerful weapon. Before you embark on demolitions, you should be able to call into several meeting negotiations and see this thing, give reason, put your cards on the table. You can look at this, 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 and give me what do you think I advise the government to do on this kind of issue. And when you agree on, and I'm sure if such consultations were done extensively, at least a solution would have come from it. Yes, whether there is other ways they can mitigate the effect of the demolition on people. Yes, if you engage people, such things would have come up on the table. If you said, okay, now that you are vehement, you are going to destroy this because of public interest. And what do we do? How do we survive? I read some time ago that there was somebody, even that's still in Lagos, that I think he also went viral, that he was a retired person and that he took money from cooperatives to build a house. And after retirement, I think 4-bedroom or so, and he was hoping to live there forever. All of a sudden, the house came down. And you can understand the trauma that it would take. And the reason there was that it was in a coastal area, was on waterway. You know, and waterway is one of the reasons why a house can be pulled down. But the point is that was they able to communicate even before the person had that house in that site? Was there due process? So to answer your question more clearly, is that they should do more on engagement. You know, I know in Abuja, some places in Abuja, sometimes they go where they want to relocate people, where they want to do urban renewal. There were those days, even before we came to Abuja, they would say they move people from one particular place, especially like in Kubwa, and they'll come and resettle them in another place. They'll build houses, you know, for them, especially the indigenous, for instance. You relocate them. So there's no problem. There's nothing wrong if Lagos or any other state, for that matter, needs to do urban renewal, to build a structure, and strongly believe that that structure is for public good, is for the interest of the state, interest of the government, and find how to compensate the people that is being dislodged. I said, okay, we are moving you from point A to point B. We know things are difficult. We also know the both psychological and economic impact of this demolition on you, your family. You don't have a job, you do, but we don't want to leave you like that. Maybe we are taking you to some locations. So look at that offer. And when the person says, no, I can't, I want to remain, then you let the law. There is a lot of hardship. There's a lot of hardship in Nigeria, including the Lagos state. And yes, I have always believed that there are always alternative ways of doing things. There is no an end that this thing must be done this way. Yes, I feel as a government the interests of the people of Lagos should be paramount. And that is even the essence of government. You must be interested in the security and the welfare of the people. That is the primary functions of government. And so I also know that Lagos would not be the people who are even, especially the direct people that are involved in doing the demolition. Like I keep mentioning that commissioner, you watch him that day, he was finding it, very hard to convince the people that he was not just doing, he was not wicked. Yes, it's pain. I know psychologically there'll be pain in his heart. It's like we, the officers, there are times you go to execute a directives. There is pain. But I think the Lagos can still give more time, if it becomes difficult for them to go back, because earlier in our discussion I was able to let you know too that there are certain things that are becoming inevitable.
My name is Robert Hornsby with American Home Builders of West Africa. Keep watching Housing Development Program.
Welcome back. You're watching Housing Development. Rainfall is often associated with renewal and growth, but for many, it comes with bearing challenges, threatening their existence. This reality has made the season of rainfall-inspired flooding one of Nigeria's most dreadful annual events. As the rainy season descends upon Nigeria, these housing stakeholders are advocating for proper urban planning before development to cushion the effects of flooding.
Flooding has become a major hazard in Nigeria in recent years. It was estimated that Nigeria suffered combined losses of more than $16.9 billion in damaged properties, oil production, agricultural and other losses due to flood events in the past several years. Increased flood events coupled with lack of coping capacity and high levels of vulnerability of the people have continued to put many lives and properties at risk. Stakeholders are therefore increasingly concerned about the threats of flooding to communal safety and national development. Town planner Olutoyin Ayinde says in mitigating the effects of flood, planning should be done before development, as planning precedes development.
You do not develop before planning. The sequence all over the world is that planning precedes development, just like thinking precedes speaking. The good book says, do you see a man who speaks without thinking? There's more hope for a fool than for him. So do you see a man who develops without planning? There's more hope for a fool than for him. You are required to plan. And planning helps you to know the places that are floodable, the places that are wetland, the places that are low-lying. And when those information come to you, it helps you to take meaningful decisions of how to develop.
He also stated that most flooding have been caused by non-adherence to principles of planning and physical planning standards.
Flooding in estates like Trademore or others that may come in future, it will be because we have not followed the principles of planning. We can't make headway trying to develop without planning. It's chaos. We are headed for destruction. For the way I put it is that we either plan or we perish. Planning helps us to know how to properly organize our land uses.
The absence of proper urban development planning process has over the years resulted in the gross distortion of ecological systems and has abused the floodplains, especially in the low-lying cities. In tackling flood risk in Nigeria, Town Planner Olutoyin calls on the federal government and all stakeholders involved to understand the concept of planning before development.
The only way forward is as old as humanity. You know, Socrates in 470 BC to 399 BC, that's even before Christ was born, he said by far the most admirable form of wisdom is that needed to plan and beautify cities and human communities. So if someone knew that centuries ago, we must be joking if we think we will make any headway without planning. So that's why our chief executives, the president of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, the governors of every state in Nigeria, the local government chairmen, people, leaders of thought, people, Nigerians generally, the ordinary man selling cigarettes on the street must understand the concept of planning, that when we do not plan, we are not hoping to make any headway.
Town Planner Olutoyin there, the former national president, Nigerian Institute of Town Planners, speaking on flooding and the need for urban planning. I'll see you right after the break. Stay with Housing Development. You're watching Housing Development. Did you know that attending the 18th Africa International Housing Show and participating as an exhibitor will give you value for money, as you get the opportunity to introduce new products, meet the right buyers for your goods and services? Testimonies from attendees and exhibitors have confirmed that there is no other platform in Nigeria that brings together people from different political divides, backgrounds, professionals from housing and construction sector to come together and chart a new course for the housing sector. Now here is a recap and testimonials of the 2023 Africa International Housing Show.
Okay, so we've been participating at the Africa International Housing Show for close to 5 years now. And if it's not something of value to us, we won't be a repeat participant and exhibitor. So the event has been impactful. We've seen how it had helped build our brand awareness, had helped push that brand to a larger audience. And so we're committed to be partners, you know, moving forward with the exhibition.
We are participating since we are participating in this housing show, and every year we are continuing our own contribution from this. We are platinum sponsors for this event. So this show will be helpful for all the people to get an awareness about affordable housing. So we are here to expose our products. Everything will be affordable. It's not expensive.
I think we started in 2016. It'll be about 7 years now. For us to stick to the event for this period, it means I think we've seen value with it, and we're happy to, be a part of this. This one, for instance, we've been here, met with some stakeholders, been able to showcase to some prospects and the things that what we're about and the opportunities that comes along with such conversations. Yeah. There are limitless opportunities here, right? So this is a platform where I think you can come to showcase and get linked up to opportunities. So there are people who are on the different sides of the divide. There are people who want to buy products. There are people who want to market products. So there's something for everyone in the built industry in this event.
Safe and affordable housing is a basic necessity for every family. Without a decent place to live, people cannot be productive as members of the society. Children cannot learn and families cannot thrive. Low-cost housing should be given topmost priority in the country. Thanks for watching Housing Development. Keep a day same time next week. As always, I remain your housing diva, Flora Ani. See you soon.
Newspaper headlines today, May 22nd, 2024. Headlines today in the leadership newspapers. Both the headline says, Fear grips Plateau residents as gunmen kill 50. Details of that on page 50. Hardship. We won't cut corners to revive economy. That's according to Vice President Shettima. Details of that on page 16. CBN's benchmark interest rate hits 26.25% to sustain past gains. Details of that on page 4. Above the nameplate, Governor Inua backs calls for state police. Details of that on page 7. Minimum wage. Again, Labour rejects federal government's 54,000 naira offer. Details of these and more on the leadership newspapers today. Headlines today in the Guardian newspapers. Both the headline says, MPC outcome. CBN guns for stable currency. FPIs as rates hike hurts businesses. Details of that on page 6. APC dismisses merger talks as Obi visits Labour Party Secretariat. Details of that on page 6. Nigerian startups get 29.3% of Africa's $15 billion funding in 5 years. Details of that on page 15. Fresh nationwide strike looms in varsities over ASUU's demands. Details of these and more on the Guardian newspapers today. Headlines today in the Daily Trust newspapers. Both the headline says, Bandits kill 50, burn houses in Plateau. Details of that on page 4. Kanu Assembly to amend law Ganduje used to dethrone Sanusi. Details of that on page 27. Minimum wage, federal government, Labour meeting deadlocked again. Details of that on page 4. Hardship, social chaos looms, ACF warns. Details of that on page 8. Headlines today in the Punch newspapers. Bold headline says 26.25% interest rate. Private sector fears loan repayment crisis. Details of that on page 19. Above the nameplate, Tinubu okays $750 million for rural electrification. Details of that on page 18. Naira slide pushes Dangote diesel to 1,100 naira per litre. Details of that on page 20. Medical tourism spending falls by $5.24 million. That's according to the CBN. Details of these and more on the Punch newspapers today. Headlines today in the Business Day newspapers. Bold headline says, manufacturers' exports rides weaker naira to 9-year high. CBN signals rate pause ahead after third straight hike to 26.25%. Details of these and more on the Business Day newspapers today.
When the city is getting too loud, you need a home. Home is love, peace, and tranquility. Home is Housing TV Africa. Housing TV Africa, your first in housing news.
If you want to get credible and authentic news on real estate and housing development in Africa, or you need that educative platform on how you can own a home through mortgage, look no further. We've got you covered. Subscribe to our YouTube channel on Housing TV Africa, where we bring you latest news on real estate, affordable housing, mortgage, and building technologies and materials. Visit Housing TV Africa on YouTube. Subscribe now and get best of educative information on housing across Africa. Powered by the largest housing event in Africa, AIHS.
Get credible and authentic housing news at your fingertips by downloading the Housing TV mobile app. You can also join the Africa International Housing Show live from across the globe through the Housing TV mobile app. The mobile app features live streaming and trending housing news. You can locate the AIHS venue via the app, network with AIHS seasoned speakers, and live chat with exhibitors. You can also order house or building materials at AIHS via this app. Download the Housing TV mobile app now from the App Store and Google Play Store. And don't forget to click on the notification button. Available for both iOS and Android users. Housing TV is also on Star Times, channel 149 decoder.
Housing TV Africa, your first in housing news. Housing TV Africa, your first in housing news.
Housing TV Africa, your first in housing development broadcasting.
In fact, things are very, very difficult, especially with regards to the rent you are asking of. The rate in which landlords are increasing, rent, is alarming. It's just alarming. Yes, that's just what I will tell you. It's just alarming. They increase it without any control. No government interference. Someone who built house, let's say 10, 20 years back, simply because of what is going on, he will just shoot up the price and nobody to checkmate.
To me, honestly, I will blame the government because cost of living are increasing day by day. They remove subsidy, and by virtue of that, you can see that things are going skyrocket. You see, today you buy fuel 700, tomorrow they tell you 950, next tomorrow above that. So the landlords, to me, they are right for increasing the rent, the house rent, because what is good for the gander is always good for the goose.
Man is basically greedy. Now they will tell you because of the dollar rate and the naira rate, the dollar has made naira to be so high, and because of that, now you ask yourself a question. What is the connection between a foreign currency and the products that are produced locally? I mean, the last time I priced cement was 4,000. The day they told me it was 12,000, I was lost. Like, how?
It's not the cost of the landlord, rather being the cost of the house, or maybe people selling food in the markets. It's the cost of our government, in the sense that the money paid to civil servants is not up to what they will use to train their children in an institution. Talk more of feeding the family.